Good afternoon, viewers. Hope all of you are doing great and most of you are vaccinated as well, either single or double dose. In the recent past, we have seen 2-3 notable actors has lost their life due to cardiac arrest. They were all health conscious and most importantly, they touched 40. Today, on the occasion of World Heart Day, I'd like to emphasize more on age. We have with us Dr. K.S. Kishore, who is an interventional cardiologist with Sagar Hospital, Banshankari. Good afternoon, doctor.
Good afternoon.
So my first question and all the question would be related to, the young people having heart-related issues.
Yes.
Today we can touch upon that. So my first question is, as I mentioned, what could be the cause of these young people died of cardiac arrest while they are not in sedentary lifestyle?
Yes. No, this is a very interesting question and probably the need of the hour. We have seen quite a few celebrities and few of the sports personalities also having cardiac events despite people seeing their fitness regime. They are physically fit. They make sure that they spend time in the gym or spend enough time for physical activity. Despite that, we see some youngsters and recently some of the celebrities who also had cardiac events are not those people. Apparently, they looked healthy, looked physically fit. So one thing one should remember is physical fitness is part of anyone's routine to prevent any major illness. That includes even the cardiac illness. But one shouldn't stop there. See, one unfortunate thing is we see a lot of youngsters, irrespective of the age, especially we see come across this kind of a situation in techies. They spend a lot of time in gym for their physical fitness, and you look at them, they will appear physically fit as well. And we see some of them coming up with cardiovascular problems like heart attack. And you inquire their medical history, they wouldn't be having any diabetes or hypertension, any of these kind of risk factors what we see in any cardiac patient. But once you start probing into their overall routine they lead on a particular day, many of them have hardly any time for themselves, meaning to say their work routine is such
stress.
They are driven by career related goals. They give least importance for other things in their life, especially for maintaining their own health. And it's a false notion that physical fitness alone will translate to good health. It is an important and key factor, there is no doubt about it. But there is much more things beyond the physical fitness.
More of stress.
So most of these individuals, as you rightly said, they run from morning till evening, chasing things related to their career. So they lead a stressful life. One thing we should remember is most of the diseases today, what you come across in the present day world, is rooted in our minds. You take it hypertension, stress. You take it diabetes, again stress is the trigger. You take heart disease, stress is the trigger. So they are all rooted in our minds. Eventually it translates into some bad thing on the body. So this is one common thing and unfortunately a neglected thing.
So probably this is the time between 40-45 when they are in the mid-career. So the stress is more. So in the recent past, we see more of this kind of things.
One thing is the nature has devised our body in such a way. With every passing year, with every year we age, and with the aging, our body refuses to tolerate the abuse what we give the body. So 40 is the transition period for many. So this is where you see a lot of people having issues with their health, and this is where one should be very careful and be cautious about what they are doing.
How often this type of cases comes to you?
No, about a decade back or so, we used to, and for example, we all read in our medical schools when we studied, cardiac problem is 40 and above. This was the dictum when we studied. But this doesn't hold good anymore. Especially we have been paying a price for industrialization or globalization, whatever you call. Job opportunities have increased, our style of eating has changed, or the way we are living has changed. and unfortunately it's changed for bad. Earlier, for example, people used to have, many people, affording a two-wheeler itself was a luxury. So people had no option but to commute physically or cycle, use the cycle, bicycles. This was the scene. Now with
That
the
itself
globalization,
probably was an exercise.
yes, exactly. They didn't require any additional exercise. Now with globalization and our country's economy getting better, people have started becoming more lazy. Food habits have gone for a toss, and our physical activity also has gone down. It has taken the back seat. Most of them people even go to go to the next road, they need a vehicle. Either it's a two-wheeler or it may be a car, whatever. So we are paying a price slowly for whatever blunders we have been doing, especially with our diet or with our physical activity.
So, I have seen most of these health conscious people, those, as you mentioned, that they regularly go to gym and, that they think that doing this we can maintain our health. But then to get some muscles and all these, they are mostly onto either protein diet or using lot of supplements. So, is that any kind of cause for any health ailments?
The protein diet
Or
protein
supplements.
supplements are rampantly used in many of the gyms.
Right.
See, there is no one, I don't know why people don't realize there is no shortcut to increasing the muscle mass in a natural way. These protein supplements, I am not saying should not be used, but it should be guided properly, under guidance, proper medical guidance one should use. Reason is, high intake of protein for a prolonged duration, very high intake beyond a permissible limits, can damage the kidneys. And it has a lot of other adverse, so it's a double-edged sword. So I am not saying protein supplements are not recommended. They are recommended, but only thing is it should be used under medical guidance. Now, unfortunately, we don't have proper regulatory system in place in our country. Lot of spurious products are hitting the market who claim that their muscle mass increases in a period of few weeks, and that does happen. And no one realizes they contain things which would harm their health. And many of the times, these protein products come with steroids, anabolic steroids, what we call. It's a banned entity in sports world or any world. It's only used for medical purpose actually. So these steroids are added to it. One thing is, they do get the results very fast. For example, in few weeks time with the gym using these things, their muscle mass increases, but they pay a heavy price on their health in the form of getting hypertension or cardiovascular diseases or getting their liver damaged. So they pay a price. So if someone is using protein supplements, I am not saying they should not use, but only thing is it should be used under medical guidance. They should consult a qualified doctor.
Nowadays also, how do they check their heart? I have seen that there are a lot of, laboratories who offer that coming home and taking the blood test. So as a shortcut of coming to the hospital, they generally take the blood samples at home and they do not come to the hospital for ECG and echocardiography. So any kind of heart ailments, are they detected through the blood test?
See, blood test forms a part of the cardiac checkup. It should not be the sole yardstick or criteria to say someone Mr. X or Y is fit cardiac wise. For example, the commonly done blood test for cardiac related assessment is lipid profile. That is, we check the cholesterol levels. If someone is a diabetic, we check their blood sugars as well, because uncontrolled diabetes itself is a risk factor for cardiac element. So blood test alone wouldn't form the basis to give a verdict that Mr. X or Y is healthy heart wise. Blood test is part of the assessment plan for checking the heart's condition. In addition to blood test, one should get their echocardiogram and a stress test or exercise stress test, what we call as a treadmill test. They should get it done periodically, at least once a year.
Once a year.
So blood test and these tests like echocardiogram and treadmill test, they form a comprehensive package for evaluation of the heart.
Okay. So what are the thumb rules for a layman to take care of their heart?
No, as I mentioned earlier just now, it boils down to only two things. You lead a healthy lifestyle. See, basically most of these diseases, as I mentioned earlier, are rooted in our minds. It starts there and it ends up on the physical body in the form of diseases. So first thing we should look at is, how we lead our lives. That is lifestyle. These are all chronic diseases, so-called chronic diseases. They are all lifestyle diseases. It is because of our faulty lifestyle, whatever we are leading, be it in terms of food habits, be it in terms of physical activity. So the simple and the easiest way to keep away from any cardiac related element is to lead a healthy lifestyle. First, coming to the diet, consuming any form of diet which is low on fat and high on fiber content
Okay.
is one thing one should take care of. And junk food is better avoided. In fact, whatever price people are paying youngsters today when it comes to their health is related to junk food, and it is related to low physical activity. So one should try to remain physically active as much as possible, like avoiding using the vehicles for
I
moving
think
to a
that is even worsened in last 2 years working from home.
yes, this
So
this
that,
exactly.
they are
People have
sitting
in the
at
name
one
of COVID.
place. Huh.
People have stopped stepping out of the house.
Yes.
There are enough and more ways to actually exercise inside the house. But COVID has been the example where people have stopped stepping outside the house
True,
and
true.
indulging in any physical activity.
True, and in front of the laptop probably 8-10 hours. So that
Exactly,
become worse
exactly.
than the
So
thing.
the sedentary life has just got worse with the onset of COVID. So one should spend at least 30 minutes in a day for some physical activity. This is not many patients tell us when I say physical activity. They say, sir, my job involves walking around here and there throughout the day. I would say that's not the physical activity you are looking at. This 30 minutes per day of physical activity means this is apart from your daily routine work you are
And
setting
without
aside.
mobile.
Yes, without mobile you are setting aside 30 minutes to make sure that you do some physical activity. Even a moderate intensity physical activity is more than enough. A simple brisk walk, for that matter, is will do a great job for keeping the heart fit. And coming to the diet, as I mentioned earlier, diet which is low on fat and high on fiber diet. High fiber diet is always recommended when compared to taking junk food. And the third important thing is stress. Stress is the one hidden enemy which everyone goes through. Some are able to manage it better and some are not able to manage it better. The best way of managing stress is spare some time every day to pursue your hobbies, whatever it may be. It may be reading, it may be writing, it may be cycling or listening to music. Definitely that's a big stress buster, and it is always better to have realistic goals in life. In fact, problem starts there. Your goals are unrealistic, you chase unrealistic goals, you end up losing your health, you end up losing or spoiling your career as well. So have realistic goals in life and give some time for hobbies which you like, which is an important stress buster. So pursue your hobbies.
That's a very valid point. Pursue your habits. We'll come back to this at the later part. When it comes to heart disease, what is the male-female ratio?
When it comes to most of them, like most of the diseases, even heart diseases, we see male predomination. Males are twice prone to cardiac related ailments when compared to women.
When
There's
it
no
comes
doubt
to
about
heart,
it. When it comes to heart. So males are, even if you go by the statistics, males are twice more susceptible to cardiac related illness when you compare it to the females.
Okay.
But this equation changes after menopause for females. Once the menopause sets in, the hormonal changes that happen makes them prone to cardiac elements just like
little
males.
more. Okay, okay. So, what dietary change one can make, to make heart more healthy?
As I just mentioned earlier, a diet which is very low on fiber content and diet which is low on fat content and high on fiber and moderate amount of carbohydrates. That would be ideal diet for to keep your heart healthy.
Is family history affect heart health?
Yeah, like most of the diseases, even genetics has a role for cardiac illnesses. There's no doubt about it. Anyone who has a strong family history has chances of
Generally from the father's side or from mother's
either
side?
ways.
Either
If it is
way,
maybe
okay.
from the father's side or even if it is from their mother's side.
Okay.
If someone has had a heart attack or a cardiac related illness at an early age, so just because someone has had a heart attack or a cardiac problem at age of 70 or 75 doesn't mean that it translates
Okay,
the same
okay.
would translate to their
Okay,
children.
okay.
That's not the case. If, so for
Okay.
example, if there is a given individual X, his father has an heart attack before 55 or his mother has an heart attack before 65, it
Then
will be a
it's
high risk
prone
factor
to-
for
okay.
yes, for the sibling. So we ask them to be little careful. Careful in the sense, be it lifestyle,
True.
their food,
True.
and regular periodic health checkups would do good for them.
What kind of heart disease more in India you can see?
See, heart diseases are broadly classified into congenital and acquired. Congenital heart diseases are the one where a person, where it is present during birth. That is one form of heart diseases. Second form of heart diseases is the acquired ones, where a person wouldn't have any cardiac issues when XYZ is born. They tend
If
to
it is
develop
a
it.
congenital heart disease, is it curable or it goes along the ages for the
No,
so
congenital
long the person is alive?
No, most of these congenital heart diseases are heart diseases which are which manifest during birth. Most of the other diseases are treatable today. It's
Okay.
available medical
Okay. They are
advancements.
fully cured.
Yes, medical advancement. They do very well and they lead a quality life. Only thing is it should be detected early before the damage is done.
At what age you do the treatment? The treatment starts
No,
generally.
it depends on the age what it is. It depends on the type of the problem what has been detected. For example, there are certain holes in the heart which are there at birth. 2-3 years down the line, it would close by itself.
Oh, okay.
So we keep following up with echocardiograms to see whether these holes are closing or whether they remain open. If they remain open, there are ways to close them. Many instances they close, but there are certain, by and large, remaining kind of congenital heart diseases. They need some form of medical intervention. Sometimes we do procedures in the cath lab and
Oh, okay.
yes, the few years back these holes in the heart used to be closed by surgical means. Now that with technical advances, now we close these holes without opening the chest in the cath labs.
Okay.
So management of congenital or those heart diseases which are present at birth have definitely been revolutionized in recent years, and most of these children lead a quality life. Only thing is they should be detected at an early stage rather than being ignored. Most of the time the pediatrician who's been treating will be the one who picks it up.
So when you said congenital heart diseases, what are the others we see mostly in India?
The other is
Or
acquired,
India
acquired
is rather prone to?
yeah, acquired heart diseases. We find more of acquired heart diseases than congenital heart diseases in our country, and this is the scene worldwide as well. Acquired heart diseases are the tops the chart is ischemic heart disease. Ischemic heart diseases, to put it in simple words, is blockages in heart circulation because of the cholesterol deposits. This contributes to more than 2/3 of the cardiac cases what we see in our country, and India is dubbed as the capital of heart diseases.
True, and also the capital of diabetes.
Yes,
for that
exactly.
matter.
So diabetes and heart problems many times go hand in hand. So yes, no wonder India's highest number of cardiac patients as well as diabetic population also is growing with every passing day.
So I'm sure that you also treated a lot of international patients. So from the neighboring countries, who comes second, or from which country in the neighboring, our neighbors, you see mostly
No,
the patient comes from?
By and large, if you go by the studies what they have done, people living in Southeast Asia are supposed to be at very high risk compared to any other compared to other counterparts in the world. Then after Southeast Asians, it is the next is Black Americans.
Oh,
They are supposed to have high tendency for cardiac elements
okay.
compared to others. But Southeast Asia is considered as the hotbed for cardiac related issues.
Do men and women experience the same symptoms associated with heart disease?
Most of the times the symptoms wouldn't differ with men or women, but yes, we have as we see in our daily outpatient practice or in our clinical practice, women tend to give vague symptoms compared to men.
Oh, okay.
Vague symptoms are more common, and in fact this is a known fact as well. I'm not telling just my experience. Women tend to come out with more vague symptoms related to heart compared to men. The reason I don't know, no one knows actually.
Okay.
But vague symptomatic presentation or vague symptoms with regarding to heart are more common in women than in men.
I also have seen that most of gastric symptoms and heart symptoms are almost similar. How one can know that what is gastric symptoms and what is heart related symptoms?
Yeah, there are many instances patient comes to us with retrosternal burning or burning in the center of the chest. This can be acidity and this can be cardiac. There are many instances where we also tend to ponder whether this is cardiac or whether it's non-cardiac. So my message to patients is whenever such symptoms are there, it is better not to ignore and sit at home thinking that it is acidity.
Correct,
Being doctors, being being in the profession and seeing patients day in and day out, we ourselves many times find it difficult to differentiate between these two symptoms. So there are a lot of things come into play before we arrive at a conclusion whether this is acidity or cardiac. We look at the patient's past history. For example, if someone is a diabetic, especially diabetic, or someone is an hypertension, a smoker, if he's got all these additional risk factors for the heart, if he's saying retrosternal burning or heartburn, we make double sure that we don't miss out cardiac related diagnosis. Otherwise it can cost someone's life.
True.
So those with risk factors, especially as I mentioned earlier, maybe diabetes, hypertension or smoking, if they come to us and present with these symptoms, so first thing we rule out is cardiac related. Make them undergo through battery of investigations.
Okay.
That will help us to nail the problem, whether it's cardiac or non-cardiac. So just because some heartburn is there, retrosternal or burning in the chest,
It's
one,
always better
one
to
shouldn't
come-
panic that it is heart-related symptom, and at the same time, one should
Ignore
sit at
as
home
well.
and
Yeah.
pay a heavy price later. So
Right.
it always makes sense to consult the doctor in the earliest stage, so that if there is anything, it can always be treated and managed.
Is the high blood pressure a symptom to heart ailments?
High blood pressure is considered as one of the risk factors for cardiac problems, especially heart attacks. So, as I mentioned just now, these are the risk factors we look at whenever someone comes with some vague symptoms like burning sensation in the chest. So, we dig into their health history, whether they are hypertensive, whether they are diabetic, whether they are smoker. So, hypertension also tops the chart. Hypertension and diabetes tops the chart when it comes to risk factors.
So when you say that, when a lady starts carrying, we have seen that her pressure fluctuates. Does it mean that she can also be a patient of heart disease, or after the baby birth it automatically subsides?
So, you are talking of pregnancy related hypertension.
Yes.
Pregnancy related hypertension most of the times wanes off once the pregnancy is over, most of the women, and it doesn't pose any additional risk for their cardiac health.
It doesn't carry forward.
Carry forward. Most of the times this hypertension just wanes off after a few months of medication. Most of the time the blood pressure becomes normal, and we ask them to stop the medication. Very small percentage of mothers where the hypertension just refuses to come back to normal, they end up taking the medicines for the rest of their life. But this is a very small percentage.
Right.
Otherwise, more than 2/3 of the times, someone who's hypertensive during pregnancy, after the childbirth, most of the time the hypertension settles down, or after a few months of medication, it becomes normal, and we even withdraw the medication. A small percentage of the patients are the one who end up becoming hypertensive for the rest of their life.
Okay.
That's how it is.
You have just touched upon the menopause once the lady female has a menopause. So if you can just elaborate a bit that after the menopause, how the heart related issue starts, or what a person or lady should do to refrain herself from any heart related issues post menopause.
So as I mentioned earlier, till menopause, women have the advantage of staying away from cardiac illness. But after the menopause, mostly. After the menopause, the equation changes. They are equally prone to develop cardiac related ailments like men. At menopause or after menopause, a lot of hormonal changes happen. So these hormonal changes predispose them to cardiac related ailments like men. So postmenopausal women, it applies for anyone, not only postmenopausal women, for anyone in the age. Usually this would set in after 45 or 50 years of age. They should get themselves periodically evaluated for the heart related elements. And if they are already having risk factors like diabetes or hypertension or high cholesterol levels or a strong family history, in that case they should be even more careful. A periodic cardiac checkup will save them from getting into any unforeseen trouble.
How adequate sleep, how long a person can sleep to keep his heart healthy, or is this another way to keep the heart healthy?
Sleep is one of the most neglected entities. So we have been for example, now we have been talking for last 15-20 minutes about food, stress, about all possible things. But sleep again, unfortunately, is the most neglected entity in recent days. The reason is very simple. as I mentioned earlier, we are all hit by globalization. Youngsters have taken up jobs where they are awake whole night and try to catch up sleep during daytime because they work for the American timings or the British timings or European time. So in the process, they hardly catch up sleep during daytime. They are awake whole night, busy with their laptops. And daytime, when they want to sleep, they see whole world awake and active.
Right.
They don't feel like sleeping. They sleep for 1 or 2 hours and they tend to resume whatever they do in the daytime.
In the daytime.
So effectively, they don't even sleep for 2-3 hours. This kind of situation I have seen with many techies. How we dig into it is, Mr. X or Y who is an youngster, no risk factors, so-called risk factors. They come to us with high blood pressure. We ask their family history, nothing. They wouldn't have give you any hint of any risk factors. And when you look at the lifestyle, that is working pattern and other things, you realize they hardly sleep. I have seen many youngsters developing hypertension at a very young age, even without a family history. The reason is simple, they don't rest their bodies. And eventually this translates to cardiac problem as well. Lack of sleep is a disaster for health, for anyone's health. So one should make sure they at least get 8 hours of quality sleep.
So these 8 hours, can they, divide 4 hours at night, 4 hours in the daytime, or it is an continuous 8 hours
No,
sleep?
8 hours means it is a continuous 8
Okay.
hours.
Okay.
See, body, that is where you rest your body properly. So 8 hours for any grown-up adult, 8 hours of quality sleep is a must. With aging, the sleep duration comes down. For example, for a person who is aged above 60 or 65, I wouldn't recommend 8 hours, and it's not needed. Most of them wouldn't even sleep for more than 6 to 7 hours. That's fine with them. But someone who's active and in the productive age group definitely should make sure that he or she gets 8 hours of quality sleep. It is not just sleeping and rolling over the bed, not getting sleep. That wouldn't translate into quality sleep. A good quality sleep of 8 hours and it's continuous. It's not
And
in-
also, due to all, as you said, that urbanization or modernization, even during the sleep, we have tend to see the mobile, Hotstar, Thistar, and Netflix, etc. So how affects that in one's mind? Or I'm
one-
sure that this is not advisable at all.
Yeah, it's a known fact. The more your screen time, that is, you're looking at the mobile, the more the screen time, it will affect your sleep quality. And especially, it is recommended in the nights, especially 1 or 2 hours before you go to sleep, you should cut off from the bright screen. In fact, it's scientifically proven. The more you are exposed to bright light, your sleep pattern goes for a toss and your quality sleep never happens. So, at least 2 hours or 3 hours before you go to bed, it is worthwhile to avoid seeing your mobiles or getting glued to your mobiles.
Do you do that?
I do sometimes.
Okay.
I at least try my level best to not
This
to
is
do.
a googly to you.
Yes, seriously. I try my level best to not to do it. Reason is why I am forced to be glued to mobile sometime in the night or just few minutes or few hours before I go to sleep. The reason is you keep someone or the other keep sending you ECGs, some reports.
Yes, it's
You have no option
necessary,
but
yeah.
to
The
given a
patient's
choice.
health is on your hand.
Someone or the other will send a report. They call from the
Yes,
ICU. They
yes,
say we have sent this ECG.
yes.
You take a look. You have sent this report. You take a look.
Sure.
Given a choice, I would prefer to switch off the mobile the moment I enter the home.
True.
Unfortunately, I don't have that
Yeah,
luxury.
Very true, very true. Because your life is something so different from others, and our health is in their hand. So we understand that. What is the ideal time of finishing the dinner, and what would be the time duration from finishing the dinner and going to bed?
See, early, this is known for ages. In fact, having the dinner early is good for health. In fact, our grandfathers, our fathers, they have been practicing of eating early dinner, and they all have remained healthy. So they say at least you should, there should be a gap of at least 3 hours before you go to bed between dinner is.
Okay.
Unfortunately, many of us are not able to practice it.
True,
I would admit it. Many of us are not able to practice it. Given a choice, one should have a light dinner at least 2 to 3 hours before your scheduled time to go to bed.
Okay.
The reason is you will be allowing enough time for digestion to happen, and your sleep also will be better, and you will get a good quality sleep, and it translates to better health. No doubt about it.
Okay.
At least there should be a gap between 2 to 3 hours between the dinner and sleep. So early dinner, if someone can finish his dinner by 7 in the evening, I think he is the luckiest person. He or she is doing the right thing.
So we are at the end of the session, and thank you so much, Doctor. If you can
Thank
just
you.
summarize that what you want to say to our viewers on the occasion of World Heart Day.
So put it in brief.
Nutshell, yeah.
Heart diseases are lifestyle related diseases. So we are paying a price for the wrong lifestyle we are leading. So if you can change your lifestyle, the most of the things are done. So lifestyle means, as I mentioned earlier, exercise regularly, at least 30 minutes of exercise every day. It can be moderate intensity exercise, that's fair enough. If you can do high intensity like swimming or jogging, it's well and good. Even moderate intensity exercise for 30 minutes in a day is fine. Avoid junk food, eat food which is high in fiber content and low in fat content. And the third thing I mentioned is, yes, all of us go through stress. There is no one whom I can figure out and say is not stressed. All of us go through stress, but you will be. It's only in our hands to manage stress. So try to
Follow your
take
passion.
some time out of your regular Herculean routine. Pursue your hobbies. Take a break time and again. Go on vacations. This will help you to de-stress and have realistic goals in life. In fact, that will de-stress you to a greater extent. So this is enough to keep you all healthy and your heart healthy.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much.